Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress. This is the last video of 2016 and I wanted to make sure it was a special one. Today I will present to you my favorite chess position of all time. It's not a position from a game, it is a composition and it's called the Babson Task. On this picture you see the creator of the Babson Task, on the right Leonid Yarosh from Russia, and on the left his prophet, Tim Krabbé, the Dutch chess writer who wrote books and internet articles and newspaper articles on the Babson Task. And all the material I'm using in this video was published by him. The Babson Task is all about pawn promotion, not just promotion to a queen, but also to rook, bishop and knight. Let's see what this Babson Task is all about. It was Philip Stamma from Syria who showed the first under promotion in the year 1737. That was an under promotion to a knight. And it took almost 100 years for Ignazio Calvi from Italy to show the first promotions to bishop and rook. And it was the Norwegian Niels Hoek. He combined all four promotions in one composition in 1905. So Magnus Carlsen is not the only famous chess player from Norway. I made a video on that composition earlier. It's the second video on my channel. But, and now we get to the Babson Task, the inevitable challenge was to combine the four promotions for white and the four promotions for black in one composition. And this challenge was called the Babson Task, named after Joseph Babson, an American who was one of the first ones who seriously tried to compose a problem with these four echo promotions. It has to be made in four, and this is the scheme. White plays the key move, then black promotes to queen, rook, bishop or knight. Then white has to promote to queen, rook, bishop or knight as the only way to get to the checkmate in four. Then, making use of the rook, bishop or knight promotion, black sets up a specific defense. On the third move, making use of the rook, bishop or knight promotion, white refutes this specific defense. Then black plays, and on the fourth move, white delivers checkmate. That is the scheme. In other words, if black promotes to a queen, white must promote to a queen. If black promotes to a rook, white must promote to a rook. And the same for bishop, and the same for knight. This holy grail of chess had been searched for in vain for over a century. The greatest composers thought it would never be created. They thought it would not be possible, it would take too much of the chess pieces, it was beyond the power of the chess pieces to put together a composition like that. The hero of the story is a Frenchman, Pierre Drumard, who spent 22 years of his life trying to compose the Babson Task. Searching for the impossible, he called his quest. And in 1982, at the end of the 22 years, he said, "It has driven me to the edge of insanity, but I now know for sure that the Babson Task will never be realized." And it was only a few months later that Leonid Yarosh realized the impossible. When he composed this problem in 1983, Yarosh was a 26-year-old soccer trainer from Kazan in Tatarstan in Russia and a complete unknown in the composing world. Well, enough words, let's have a look at the position. This is the position, this is the Babson Task composed by Leonid Yarosh. We should not look at this position as it is from a game, because this is all about white to play and checkmate on the fourth move. If we look at the position, of course white has a ton of material up and the black pieces are very restricted. The king does not have any squares, the bishop is pinned to the rook, all the pawns are blocked apart from the a2 pawn, and of course black can play with the queen. So how do we checkmate this black king in four moves? Let's try something. Let's try rook e1, because then we are threatening rook e4 checkmate. But that doesn't work, because then black has to reply queen takes d8 check, And if you take that queen, it is stalemate. And if you flee with the rook to g7, then there's queen g8 check. And then king takes g8 is the only legal move. And then it's stalemate. Okay, so rook e1, even though there was a checkmate threat there, does not work. Let's look at something else. Let's try a check. For example, knight a4 check. Well, then we can checkmate black indeed, because then the best defense is b3, b2. Queen takes, knight takes, and then all black can do is promote. For example, a takes b1 queen, and then there is rook takes f4 check, queen e4, rook takes e4 checkmate. Well done, we have checkmated the black king. But unfortunately, this was in 5 moves. And the task is to checkmate the black king in 4 moves. So also after knight a4 check, we cannot checkmate the black king in the prescribed number of moves. So we have to come up with something different. Of course, there's many moves that white can try in the first move to try and checkmate the black king in 4 moves. But trust me, there is no move apart from one that leads to mate in 4. You can try it for yourself, you can try to work out the variations. If you have any questions on it, you can ask me in the comments. But there's only one move that white can make as the first move that will lead to mate in 4. That's the key move, and the key move is a6, a7. Only that one leads to mate in 4. Now it's black's turn, and he can only play with the a-pawn or with the queen. The other pieces cannot move. So let's look at a few queen moves first. Let's have a look at this idea that black had before, the stalemating trap with queen takes d8. Well, that does not work now, because after king g7, queen g8 check, white can take the queen, because after a takes b1 queen, there is d8 queen, checkmate, and that is the 4th move. So that's on time for white. Let's look at one more queen move. Let's look at queen e5, that is a good try. But also then, white can checkmate the black king on the 4th move. With bishop takes e7, black's best defense is queen d6 to cover the d8 square, and also to prevent bishop takes f6, which is now not possible because the bishop is pinned. But then there is knight takes d6 and king e5, knight d3, checkmate on the 4th move. So also in this variation white is on time. But there's many queen moves, and again I will not cover them all, you can look for yourself all the other queen moves, how white will still checkmate black on the 4th move. There's a total of 11 queen moves, we have seen 2 of them. You can work the other 9 out for yourself, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. When you look at the other queen moves, many of them are refuted by rook takes f4 checkmate. That is the main threat that white always has. So those queen moves, they do not work out. They don't save black. So let's look at moves with the a-pawn. Let's promote a takes b1 queen and see if that helps black. The only way then for white to checkmate the black king in 3 moves from here is a takes b8 queen. And now there are 2 variations. One is queen e4, queen takes f4. The only move is queen takes f4, and then rook takes f4 is checkmate on the 4th move. The other thing that black can try is queen takes b2, taking the knight, because that will give the black king 2 flight squares on c4 and d3, so that makes it more difficult for white. But then white has a beautiful move, queen takes b3, regaining those flight squares on c4 and d3, and that queen cannot be taken because the black queen on b2 is pinned to the queen on a1. and is now checkmate on the next move. For example, queen takes e1 and rook takes f4, checkmate in 4 moves. So when black promoted to a queen, white promoted to a queen, and was able to checkmate the black king in the prescribed number of moves. Now if this were all, as Krabbé writes, it would still only be a mediocre and rather pointless problem that wouldn't even have been accepted by a serious problems magazine or column. But it is not all. Back to the position after a6, a7, the key move for white. Let's promote the pawn again for black, but instead of taking a queen we are promoting to a rook. Well, you can ask yourself, what good does that do for black? Well, there's a point. Because if now white promotes to queen, then there is again rook takes b2, winning a few flight squares for the black king, c4 and d3. And now the nice move that worked in the previous variation, queen takes b3, regaining those flight squares, does not work, because after queen takes b3 the position is a stalemate. The black rook cannot move, it's pinned, and none of the other black pieces can move. So promoting to queen for white does not work. But white can also promote to a rook, an echo promotion. Black promoted to a rook, and as a solution white promotes to a rook. And why does this now work? Because if again black tries rook takes b2, gaining those flight squares, then there is rook takes b3, but now it's not stalemate, because the rook does not cover the c4 square, which the queen did before. So the only move black can make is king takes c4, and then there is queen a4, checkmate on the 4th move. So by promoting to a rook, echoing black's promotion to a rook, white has been able to checkmate the black king in the prescribed number of moves. Queen a4 was the 4th move. But that's still not all. Back to the position after a6, a7, and now let's promote to a bishop with black and see what that can do for us. If now white promotes to a queen, then the best defense is bishop e4, and from here white cannot checkmate the black king in 2 moves. For example, queen takes f4 is stalemate, that doesn't work. And if you try the old friend queen takes b3, then there is a saving move for black, which is bishop h6, check. And because it's check, white will have to do something about that first, so he cannot checkmate on the next move. So this will be a mate in 5 and not in 4. It's a funny variation, that bishop and f4 that's pinned all the time, can never move. In this variation it gives the saving check on h6. So promoting to a queen does not work. So let's promote to a bishop. What good could that do? Well, again we see bishop e4, and then bishop takes f4. If that had been a queen, would have been stalemate, but now it's not stalemate. The black bishop on e4 has to play, it's the only piece that can move, and wherever it goes, for example, bishop takes a8, then there is bishop e3 or bishop e5, checkmate on the 4th move. So here promotion to a bishop is answered by promotion to a bishop to deliver checkmate in 4 moves. Quite astonishing, but we're not there yet. One more piece to go. Promoting to a knight. Let's look at that variation. A takes b1 knight. If now you promote to the strongest piece with white, a takes b8 queen, then you will not be able to achieve the checkmate in 4 moves. Black plays knight takes d2, gaining a flight square on c3 for the king, and you're not able to checkmate in 2 moves from here. For example, rook takes f4 check, then there is knight e4 and no checkmate on the next move. If you play instead after knight takes d2, queen takes f4 check, then the king can escape. It goes to c3, that flight square that was gained by the knight takes d2 move, and there is simply no checkmate move now on the fourth move. So promoting to a queen does not work. And yes, promoting to a knight does work. And let's see why does that work. If you again play the strongest move with black, knight takes d2, gaining that flight square, then white has the beautiful move queen c1, just regaining that flight square on c3 and keep the king where it is. And now whatever you play with black, you get checkmated on the next move. For example, knight takes e4, then there is rook takes f4 checkmate, and a beautiful variation if you go with the knight to e4, then there is knight c6 checkmate. And for that move it was necessary for white to promote to a knight. Knight c6 is checkmate on the fourth move. As Tim Krabbé writes, Yarosh had not just broken the world's 100 meters record, he had set it at 8 seconds flat. And I hope you agree that what we've just seen is quite astonishing. I was lucky to have met the great Leonid Yarosh, who is here in this picture on the left and myself on the right. In 2002, Tim Krabbé and I made a trip to Kazan in Tatarstan in Russia, and we met the great Yarosh. And we found out that he's not just a genius chess problem composer, but also one of the nicest people you're ever likely to meet. Hope you enjoyed the Babson Task. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to my channel, and I'm looking forward to seeing your comments. This is Rick from Chess to Impress. Happy New Year, and thank you for watching.